Hey, good to see you, Andy.
Hey, Rob, good to see you.
Yeah. So Pure is not really known as a cybersecurity provider, but we do a lot of great things around data protection. How would you categorize those?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's the big elephant in the room with a lot of customers, right? They're like, why would I talk to Pure Storage about security? Well, there are some things that we don't do, right, that are really important. So like things like patching, right, is the most important thing. Authentication, so like vaulting your admin credentials with a CyberArk or a BeyondTrust type of solution. Things like education, so having not only end user awareness training, but also bringing your executives into the training mix and doing tabletop exercises with them on a regular basis. But the last area where Pure actually does affect security before an attack is around analytics. Security analytics is one of the two most important areas from a security perspective nowadays. Using analytics to get visibility in an environment is absolutely critical. And Pure, with our solutions being all NVMe and using our direct flash modules, can allow you to actually correlate and ingest data at line speed so that those security operations become much faster than on competitive solutions, which gives you the ability to feed cyber threat hunters and make the awareness campaign and the threat hunt campaign a much faster activity.
Pure recently announced a ransomware recovery SLA. How does that work? What does that look like in terms of providing this data resilience to customers?
The ransomware recovery SLA is really cool. For our as-a-service customers, what we offer is the ability to ensure that when you're attacked from a cyber perspective, we will ship you arrays within 48 hours. So you'll be getting new arrays that you can now recover your business to. We'll also provide the resources, so people and planning associated, to make sure that we can come in and help you recover your data from the existing arrays that might be implicated in the attack and get them over to those new arrays. The thing that a lot of organizations don't think about is when you get attacked, in a lot of cases, those systems that are implicated as a part of the attack are taken by somebody. It could be an internal forensics team, an external forensics team, law enforcement, your insurance company. Somebody's going to want them. And they're going to keep them probably for the rest of their usable lifetime.
So Pure also has a very robust portfolio of replication options. What role does data replication play in these scenarios?
It just gives you an additional line of defense, in essence. So it allows you to build out architectural resiliency across geographic span, right? So we have a synchronous capability called Active Cluster, right? That gives us the ability to synchronously replicate data as long as your data centers are within an 11 millisecond round trip of one another from a latency perspective. Outside of that, we have an asynchronous capability called Active DR. No geographic or latency limitation to it whatsoever. It's near synchronous, very, very close, but it gives you the ability to also replicate data just without that synchronous aspect.
Andy, we sometimes hear the term immutability thrown around by our competitors. What's our view on that?
All immutability means is that once data is written, it can't be changed. What it doesn't mean is that once data is written and can't be changed, it can't be deleted. As a bad guy, when I get into an environment and I elevate my privilege to administrator, I can now move laterally to your storage arrays, and those competitive arrays that are storing the immutable snapshots, right? I can just get on there and delete them, right? So they're gone. You can't do that with safe mode with Pure, right? Safe mode is your protection layer that ensures that that data can't be deleted without going through that out-of-band process.
Okay, let's keep going with this buzzword game then, because this is so much fun. I also hear the term air gap from our competitors. What about that one?
Air gap's another fun one, right? Look, you can't have a real air gap in a corporate environment. Why? Well, in defense departments, DoD, you can have an air gap for one simple reason. It's because you have physically segregated network infrastructure on the back end. So if you're plugging in to work on a classified system, you connect to one set of network. If you plug in to work on an unclassified network, it's a different set of networking gear. You can't do that in a corporate environment. You could not have a physically segregated air gap. Your data couldn't talk, right? So it wouldn't work. So, those organizations that are talking about air gap, right? What they're really talking about is building this artificial, I call it virtual drawbridge that comes down at certain times a day. Well, it sounds great in theory. But the problem is when you have a virtual drawbridge down, it's down for a long period of time. It could be hours. And now as a bad guy, I can exploit two sides of an equation, right? So that combined with the fact that if you ever have to recover from the opposite side of that drawbridge, it's going to be really, really slow. So air gap, not so much in a corporate environment.
So for all these features we're discussing, Andy, what kind of costs are we talking about for the Pure solution?
Yeah, look, Rob, the costs are minimal, right? With Pure, all the features that we introduce, things like safe mode, come included for our customers as part of being a Pure customer through our Evergreen Forever or Evergreen One programs, right? So you don't have to pay extra as we develop new things. We're not going to come back and ask you to pay more. Now, there is going to be a cost from a technology perspective, but it's very limited, right? Mostly comes in the form of storage. There's no performance implication, so no performance cost. But, snapshots are going to take up space on a storage array, right? Generally speaking, I use a 20% rule of thumb. So if your array was 50% utilized in the beginning, you turn snapshots on, it's going to go to about 60%. Checking the box for safe mode inside of Pure One doesn't apply any additional overhead whatsoever.
What are the best practices for cybercrime prevention?
To prevent cybercrime in an environment, you really need to focus across three domains: before, during, and after an attack. By looking across those three, you now have the opportunity to contain an attack up front and respond to an attack on the back end.
What is a data breach response plan and why is it so important?
Data breach response plan is all about how we respond when an event occurs. So it's who do we call? So who's the forensic company I'm going to call? Am I going to call my insurer? Am I going to call law enforcement? What's the response going to look like? What do I need to do to recover my environment from a first, second, third perspective, ordinality-wise? How am I going to recover? Who am I going to involve? Who's on point for certain points of a response? So talking to the media and doing other things. So it's the whole scope of how do I respond when one of these events occurs.
Thanks, Andy. Loved hearing all your perspectives around data protection and, of course, cybersecurity. What a great chat.
Thanks, Rob. Really appreciate being here.